Lizzie, it says we lost access to Facebook. I don't know if that's true. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Tuesday Unlock live stream. We are here every single Tuesday at 2 o'clock Eastern to bring you guys all things real estate. And this is actually week 2 in a pretty cool series that we're doing. We're doing an exit strategy series. So, I always come on here. I always talk about the BRRRR method. I always talk about long-term rentals. But that may not always be the best exit strategy for every deal. And I don't want you just to toss the deal to the side because it doesn't work for one strategy. So I want to teach you, quite a bit more. So we're doing flipping. And today we are doing midterm rentals. So we have with us Jon Styer. I will turn it over and let you kind of introduce yourself, where you're from, what you do, all that business.
Perfect. My name is Jon Styer. I live in Columbus, Ohio. I'm from Columbus, grew up here, moved away for school, went to school in Indianapolis, moved back. I started in real estate doing property management, long-term rentals, scattered sites, so single family, small multifamily. Did that for a few years until I transitioned into sales, working mainly with investors. I invest in real estate myself, so I've seen it all. I've done plenty of BRRRRs, both personally and with clients, flips, long-term rentals, midterm rentals, short-term rentals. I've been around the block with all that. Like I said, I mainly work with investor buyer clients, and I a couple of years ago started my own brokerage, and as part of that, we started a management company. So we manage short-term and midterm rentals exclusively.
Did Lizzie just said that you hit 100 doors?
Yeah, we hit 100 doors under management about 2 months ago.
Huge congrats. That's amazing.
Thank you. Yeah. And it's all furnished rentals. So, it's a lift, but I have a great team.
That's a lot of furniture.
It is.
Well, I love it. So you definitely know. I mean, you, like you said, you've seen it. I'm curious because you said you started in scattered site and single family. What really had you switch from kind of a more long-term outlook to the midterm? And you do short-term as well?
Yeah, we do short-term as well.
Okay.
The biggest thing for me was I analyzed our market here in Columbus, and this was 4 years ago maybe, and rates were insane. It was 3% rates, and we were such a hot market, and I just said, okay, we're going to continue to appreciate here, but this is not always going to be the rate scenario. And I, as someone who worked with investors who love cash flow, I was like, okay, I'm going to want to continue to work with investors because I love working with investors, and I'm an investor myself, and that's what I know and love. But it's going to get more difficult as time goes on to be able to find cash flow deals.
Spoiler, it's gotten harder.
Yeah. It has gotten harder. So I was like, what I internally, what is a way that I can continue to provide cash flow for investor clients, and at the same time potentially increase my purchase price or my average volume, because I get paid commission on the sales. And so for me, the answer was, let me get into short-term and midterm rentals, because they are cash flow propositions if you buy them right and you do it right. And so I wrote a business plan, put it all together. I brought it to my broker at the time, who we had management in-house, but it was strictly long-term rental management. And I said, I think that we should look into doing this, but I'm not going to just build you a whole business. I want to have a piece of this. And he said, this looks great, but I'm not going to give you a piece of my business. And I said, okay, I understand. And so that's when I started making my exit, and took a year to get my broker's license to then be able to open up the brokerage to be able to do the management, to also drive the sales.
Awesome. So you actually are so passionate about this strategy that you switch brokerages, spent a year getting your broker's license, and open your own brokerage. So that's a lot. Yeah.
I mean, it's been a lot of work. It's not been all me. My wife, Sarah, owns and manages the business with me, and she operates the day-to-day of the management company. And then, as we've grown, we've built out a full team as well. But yes, for me, there are, just like anything, there's pros and cons.
Okay.
But for me, I love this strategy, and the pros outweigh the cons for me significantly.
Yeah, that actually goes into my next question very, very nicely. Is what would you say are like some of the top reasons that someone would consider a midterm over long term? And I know we've kind of talked about cash flow, but if you could go a little deeper into that.
I'll go deeper into the reason why the cash flow. So some of the pros are you get to own maybe a little bit nicer real estate, or real estate in an area that you might feel is a little bit better, and still get cash flow. So for me, that has value. Secondarily, we don't have a landlord-tenant relationship. I mean, there are great tenants and there are bad tenants. That's just the nature of people. But our relationship is a guest-host relationship. And we have found in our experience that properties get taken care of a little bit better because of that. They don't feel like they have possession. They don't feel like it's their place. They feel
Okay.
like they're a guest in your place. And when you're a guest in a place, most people are going to want to treat it well. They're going to want to take care of it. They're going to want to, be cognizant of the fact that, hey, this isn't mine. I don't own this, so let me take good care of it. And if I break something, it's like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, instead of the feeling of possession.
Love
So
that.
that leads to,
I actually have not thought about it as like a shift in the relationship type and the kind of barrier between that ownership mindset.
yes,
Yeah, that's
and it's real. I mean, and not that, I mean, if you do a great job vetting tenants, you're going to get good tenants most of the time. And could you get a bad midterm guest? Of course you could. It's not the be all end all, but it's just a different relationship, and we've seen differences because of that.
I'm gonna ask you about a horror story down the line.
Okay.
So I know that there's got to be some bad ones in there too.
Not everybody. I mean, you're dealing with people, right? So you're not always going to have a home run every single time. So the cash flow thing and the owning the real estate in an area in which you would have no chance of cash flowing. I've owned plenty of long-term rentals, and they did well. I've burrowed into them, and it all worked, and it's all good. But for me, I found myself just not wanting to invest in those areas anymore. And so this was an opportunity to pivot into owning real estate in a different area that maybe I feel is going to appreciate better, or I just feel more comfortable with. That I know that there's no way I could cash flow based on market rent in those areas. So that to me has value as well.
Okay, so if I came to you, or if someone in the audience came to you as a potential new client and was like, Jon, I want to own real estate in some of these nicer areas, and I want to have a better relationship, that host relationship.
Mm-hmm.
What would your brokerage do to kind of help an investor get started?
Yeah. Well, we'll start by talking about, the pros and the cons of the strategy, because it's not all sunshine and roses. There are things that are, I would say, more advantageous with long-term rentals than there is with midterms. But we'll talk through all that. We're going to start by setting expectations. Expectations on purchase price, also expectations on cost on the back end, because, there's a difference between what a good rental grade property is, and then midterms you're going to be maybe a little bit of a step up from that.
So that's on the construction. If your exit is midterm, I may be upgrading a couple features or some, visual accents or something like that.
Completely. It doesn't have to be like luxury, but you want these to be a nice place. And we can get into a little bit more about what that means. But the third and the biggest consideration is that these are furnished rentals. So you're going to have to pay on the back end to furnish it, and that's going to have a significant cost. So that is something that we're always, cognizant of. Like when you're running your numbers, this is a large consideration.
And I don't know a single, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't know a single hard money lender that's covering any furnishings. They'll cover renovations, but I've never seen it.
Yeah. I would. I mean, now that's not to say that you wouldn't be able to burr yourself out of that as well, but it is liquid cash that you're probably going to have to be bringing or borrowing up from elsewhere. I mean, you could use credit cards or something like that, but of course, there's risk involved with that. The fourth thing that is a consideration as well when you're considering midterm versus your expenses are going to be higher. We cover internet, we cover utilities, we cover landscaping, and so that is also a consideration. Now your income potential is higher. The napkin math on midterm is going to be 2 to 2.5 times your market rent.
Okay, let's do an example. Let's do a Columbus, Ohio example.
Sure. So let's say we're looking at a brick ranch 3-2 out in Reynoldsburg.
Okay. I own 2 of those.
Yeah, we manage 20 of them. We manage 20 of those. They're highly desirable midterms. They do very well as far as occupancy goes. And so I would say when I'm running my numbers, I tell clients to, as far as occupancy goes, let's use 85%.
Okay.
So 15% vacancy. That's about 1 month vacant out of the year. Now I will tell you that generally we do better than that. But as a conservative number, let's use 85%. As far as gross monthly income for that property, we should be over $3,000 a month.
Okay. How many beds, baths?
That's a 3-2.
That's a 3-2.
Yeah. So maybe like 1,200 square feet, something like that. There are factors to that. There is some seasonality to midterm.
Okay.
It also really depends on your finishes, your furnishing, and really that leads into your marketing. This is a marketing business. People are booking these places based on the pictures, the copy, the advertising, and your reviews. 98% of our guests book without ever having stepped foot in the place.
Okay.
So that stuff is super important, and you can set yourself apart by having great pictures, like the furnishing is A1 and you got great reviews. That right there will make you money. And so some of our places push mid 3,000s a month for like a 3-2 brick ranch.
Wow.
If you get into a 4-2, we've seen places get up to $4,000 a month. And so that's significant. That's
okay, John. I'm about to have a phone call out to you because Laura and I want to go do some like moderate time, like couple months of travel. And our house is furnished. It's a 4-2 and similar area. I'm like, okay, I think I'm gonna give you a call.
we're happy to chat with you about it.
Yeah. Awesome. I mean, it's sounding great. So you're saying the income potential, because that same property would probably rent for about $1,600. That's what we're getting in that area. So It could rent long-term for 16 with no additional expenses, right? I'm not paying utilities, internet, lawn care. I'm not paying for any of that as a long-term housing provider. Midterm, you could see double, if not 2.5 times that 1,600, but you are going to have those additional upfront and ongoing costs.
Right. So it'd be an evaluation of your numbers, and I would run both scenarios, right? It's not going to be the perfect fit for every person or every property, but it could potentially yield you more cash per month. But you're going to want to figure out what are my utility expectations? What's it going to cost to do landscaping? If you're hiring a manager, management costs more than long-term management. So if you can do it yourself, maybe you want to do it yourself. Thirdly, one thing to consideration on the positive side is a lot of times when people are running numbers and they're running CapEx and maintenance, they're using a percentage, maybe 5% for each one. You can reduce that percentage because your income is higher, but the cost of a furnace didn't go up. just because you're getting more rent.
Right.
Your cost will be about the same. Additionally, like I said, generally people do take better care of these places, we've found. So the hope is that's the case. Now
What
you're
would
going to
you,
have
what
wear and tear on your
percentage,
stuff, though.
what percentage would you underwrite at if it's not 5%? How far down do you go?
I would do half because you're upping your income by 2,
I
so
see.
you can have your percentage on your costs for capex and maintenance and stuff like that.
Okay.
But maybe go a little bit higher, maybe go to 3, so that you're covering if you have any, if people break a lamp or
Yeah.
stuff like that. There's an art to the science, just
Cool.
like anything.
Yeah.
Um,
And that comes with experience. That comes with having a good team. I'm so big on team building, and it sounds like that's what you are doing for your clients.
Yeah, I mean, it's not just me. We have, we're a full-fledged, full-service management company. So, and that comes with, all the vendors attached, and, the guest communication and the revenue management and on and on. But what I will say is that this is something that's accessible to people to do themselves. So it's not like you can't do it yourself. We have scaled it up, so we need all those people. If you have 1 or 2 properties, it's totally within reason to be able to do yourself, especially if you're local. It's harder to do, if you're not local. But if your property is local to you, I think and you can save a significant amount of money managing it yourself. What I will tell people is, it's not passive. It is not a passive thing. So if that's your expectation, change it.
Yeah.
Because
And long term, we all know, is not passive. We call it active passive because the money does come somewhat passively, but there's a lot more to it. So I would say that midterm would even be that next level of active,
sure.
But it's not quite as much activity as like a short-term rental.
Yeah.
It's literally yeah, right in the middle.
Right in the middle.
Yeah.
One thing to also note is, and this goes along with the whole guest host relationship, that this is hospitality. So everything that comes with that is involved. It's something to remember, like, hey, this is a guest, so I need to treat him as such. So things that, it's again, it's just a different relationship than the landlord tenant.
So if someone was looking for something that you're like, we understand the benefits, we understand the drawbacks, but we want to move forward with the strategy, where, like, location wise, and not necessarily city, but like within a city, would you recommend someone were to search for a good midterm? What makes a good midterm location wise?
And obviously, this is real estate, so the location's the most important thing, or at least very closely one of the most important things. So when I'm looking at a potential midterm, the first thing I'm considering is the why. Why is someone going to stay here, right?
Okay.
That's an easier conversation with long term. It's like, well, they need a place to live, but
it's near their job, or
right,
Yeah.
right. There's a certain specific type of guest that you're gonna, in any location, you're gonna have maybe more of, and it can behoove you to cater to. So a lot of people think, when they think midterm, they think traveling nurses. We definitely do house traveling nurses. That is a thing. And I don't even just say, I say traveling healthcare workers, because we've housed doctors and anesthesiologists, and there's traveling healthcare workers. So the low hanging fruit there is, like, be close to hospitals.
Okay.
We have 4 major healthcare systems here in Columbus, so there's a lot of opportunity for that. But that is not our largest guest pool. Here locally in Columbus, we have a lot of development and a lot of projects happening, and we don't have enough tradespeople locally. So they come in from all over the country, and they're here on these projects, and they might be here for a month at a time. So we house a lot of traveling tradespeople.
Interesting. I actually have a student, Carrie, who is investing out near the Honda plant, and she does some midterms, and she'll have people like rebook over and over that they maybe came in on a 2-month contract and have been there close to a year because the project keeps getting delayed and all sorts of stuff. So that's really interesting to hear that there's, if you guys are just looking into this and you think traveling nurses, you're overlooking an entire market.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And that's going to be market specific, but here locally, it's a huge market for us. And what we have found is great is we have a fair amount of properties, right? And word of mouth travels very quickly within these projects. So if you might say you've got 3 vacancies, there might be 100 guys that come into a project at once, and they all have a place they need a place to stay, and they don't want to stay in a hotel. So they talk. If you get one of them, they're going to say, "Oh, hey, you should check out this company or this person. They're awesome, and their place is great, and we love them." So we've had times where we had way too many potential guests than we had places for them to stay, and we're trying to connect them with other people that we know or that have midterms and all that. So those are great guests. And really, they're here to work. They just want a place to stay. They just want a place to rest their head. They're not here to do anything crazy. This isn't home, They're here to work.
Yeah.
And so we've had guests that have stayed with us for like 8 months, and they said they never sat on the couch, which to me is wild. But they're here to work, and they work hard. And a lot of these guys will come in, or ladies will come in, and they work real hard for months, and then they take a break, right? And that's pretty common, we've found. But to your point with the extensions, it's very common for them to extend. Yes. Very common. Happens all the time. And we structure our contracts and our calendar around that, because that's the bird in hand, right? If you know you've got a good guest, like, come on, let's get that extension.
Same thing.
We never take a booking without getting with our current guest to confirm that they don't want to extend.
Interesting. Same thing on long term, though. If you have someone who's been with you 12 months and they pay on time and take care of the property, you are out of your mind if you don't re-sign that lease. And we don't move anyone. We don't even talk to anyone until we find out their intentions.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Cool.
And so, that's kind of the traveling workers. So that's healthcare, tradespeople, corporate people, all of it. Those are the biggest guest pool. People here for work. There are other guests, but the workers are the biggest.
Okay. And how long are you seeing people stay on average? Like well, let's start with what constitutes a midterm, what range, and then what range are you seeing your guest stay?
So the legal answer is over 28 days. We always just say 30 as an easy number. The consideration, the difference between short-term and midterm is there's tenancy laws and situations applied when it's midterm versus short-term, and so that's a whole different conversation. We don't have to get into all that, but 30 days is what I say, just as a colloquial amount for midterm. And the average length of stay is about 2.5 months. 2 to 3 months is the average length of stay. There'll be people that stay for a year. There'll be people that stay for 30 days. But it's about 3 months, 2.5, 3 months.
I've dabbled in midterm when Laura and I again went on like a longer road trip, and we learned from we had traveling nurses stay at our place, and we learned that a lot of the contract lengths are like about 100 days. So that's that 2.5 month range, almost. A little over 3 months.
A little over 3,
yeah, a little over 3 months. That a lot of the contracts like are written that way, so that would make sense, kind of that time frame.
Yeah, so that's totally true.
You can expect maybe 4 turnovers a year in your unit.
Yeah, I would say about average. That would probably sound right to me. About 4.
Okay. Yeah. And so if I were managing this myself, and I had a turnover coming, how much work is involved to get this unit wrapped up from the first and ready for the next person?
So it's generally, there's a lot of variables there, but if you've done a good job in getting a good guest, a lot of them leave it in great shape, and it's going to need a clean. But you can also mitigate that to some degree by doing mid-stay cleans. We write in mid-stay cleans to our contract. So, we're getting a cleaner in there every 30 to 45 days. And you could do every 2 weeks if you want, or you could do every 90, whatever it is. So you can mitigate some of that. But it's going to be, a decently deep clean because you want to set it up nice for your next guest.
Right.
So that would be an expectation. There might be some this and that stuff, but you're not repainting the whole place. Most likely, you're not. You may clean the carpet, maybe, but they're generally very light turns, because these people they usually take great care of the place,
right?
And they're not in there roughing it up. They're just sleeping in the bed and stuff.
Cool.
It's generally pretty light, but there's no guarantee of that.
No guarantee, but I see. I definitely see what you're saying. So Lizzie's asking, does your group, does the brokerage help with furnishings for clients? Because I can imagine a lot of people are looking at these pictures online and they're like, ain't no way I can design a house like that. So is that something you guys help with? And then also, do you have a rule of thumb is maybe cost per square foot or cost per bedroom to furnish a place?
So we don't have a hard set rule. We do help with it. And we really, it's not a must, but it's a very strong preference of ours that you work with us on it.
Okay.
Because the way that our business is structured is one listing affects our entire book of business, our entire portfolio, because this is such a review-based business, and we manage all of our properties under one account.
Okay.
So it's the reviews and the marketing are very important to us. And it's important to we owe it to all of our owner clients to do the best that we can with our reviews and with our marketing, because it all ties together. So owner A's property does affect owner B.
Okay.
So we have to be very cognizant and protective of that. So we do have, I'd say a look that we're going for, and we want our places to present very well. So we do help with furnishing. We work with a professional designer on our properties. We don't have a locked-in price per square foot. It's more tied to bedroom and bathroom, and I would say living spaces. Those are going to be your high cost. A kitchen is a kitchen generally. A bedroom, a bedroom is going to cost you maybe $2,000 to furnish to do it right.
Okay, good to know.
And then so you can add, if you got 100 bedrooms, add it up. I wouldn't recommend doing 100 bedrooms, but you know what I mean.
Something a lot.
But like a living space, right? You might have a house that has 3 living spaces if you've got a living room and then another living space in the basement. So, couches can be expensive. Couches, TVs, your living room furniture, that can add up. So what would I budget? Let's use the example of the 3-2.
Okay.
I think that you're going to be and now this is if you hire someone to do it, right? You can always do it more cost effectively if you're doing it yourself, but it's going to be around the 15,000 to 17,000 to do it nice.
Okay.
Which to us is important because that pays dividends on the back end. You want it to present very well and nicely so that you are booking great guests.
Yeah, great guests, and you're just not sitting vacant.
Right.
I plenty an Airbnb picture around I don't know who would ever rent this place.
And there are small nuanced things that have great return. Like if you look at an Airbnb and you can tell it's all the cheapest IKEA furniture, who wants to book there?
No.
My pet peeve is no rugs, hard surface floor throughout the entire place, and it looks so barren because there's no rugs, there's no warmth. It's just for me, it's there's an echo in there. That just kills me.
And Airbnb, maybe you're staying a weekend, you can get over it. But midterm, you are making this your home to some extent. Right. And you want to be comfortable, be cozy.
Totally.
So very cool. Jon, this has been really, really great. If you were to leave everyone here with one piece of advice, what would you give us?
I would say if you're looking to do your first one, get some help. Find someone who has done this before that can mentor you through it. There's a lot of quick and easy mistakes that you can avoid by having a mentor or having someone who has done it before, who knows what the hangups and hiccups are that they can quickly help you to avoid. That's to me in all of real estate. Having someone to mentor you is so important. So that
100%.
would be my piece of advice: is have a mentor.
I made every single mistake in the book in my career because I thought I could do it myself, and it took me longer than it probably should have to realize that I needed to get the right help. And since then, my business has exploded. So,
Well, good.
yeah, it's crazy. Okay, well, you know what? I actually am gonna call you right after this because I have some questions about my personal house. But this has been great. We're going to give your contact information in the chat, and you manage, what's your radius for management around Columbus?
So we will do like a 60-mile radius around Columbus. But we are pretty selective, like I said, about what we take on. It's got to be the right fit for our business and our portfolio. So, if it is, we're happy to work with people and to grow that way. But we do choose very selectively because it's important to us.
That's as you should. You absolutely should. That's how you keep your brand as nice as it is.
Yeah, I mean, reputation is everything in this business, so it's important.
Absolutely. Well, thank you guys. And if you are interested in anything midterm, y'all feel free to ask any questions in the chat. We tag Jon. We'll get back to you as soon as we can. And definitely reach out if it's something that you are considering. All right.
Happy to help anybody.
Cool. What was that?
I'm just happy to help anybody I can.
Yeah, happy to help anyone. Okay. Well, thank you so much. And stick around because I do have some questions for you. See you guys.
Perfect. Yeah.